So it finally happened. Starmer the Harmer, the Israeli alarmer, euthanized our NHS yesterday morning, and the reason that he's done this is because he has borrowed too much money, overestimated the performance of the stock market, and effectively screwed the economy so hard he now needs to borrow from the NHS to pay what he's borrowed. So he's borrowing to pay back a loan. It's the worst financial strategy I have ever seen, and it's quite frankly incredible to see a Prime Minister doing such a thing. It's like if your kid had a credit card, would you say to your kid, "Oh, I know how you can pay your credit card off. Just get another credit card and use that to pay this one off"? You'd never say that to your kid because you have your kid's best long-term interests at heart. Starmer only needs to see out another 3 years, or possibly less than that, so he doesn't mind borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, knowing that he's going to be out the picture by the time those two guys need to be paid back in full. We can't say the same, however, us, the long-serving, long-suffering British taxpayer. It's going to be us that foots the eventual bill. So, here's what I think we need to do with the NHS, which is clearly beyond saving. It's broken, and now it's going to be sold off in parts so that Starmer can pay his own wages. It's absolutely incredible, like I say, but here's what we need to do. We still need socialised healthcare. There's no getting away from that. There is too many people in this country 100% reliant on the state to pay their medical costs, myself included. There's no way I could foot the bill for that stuff, and now that I've gotten used to it, my life would end without the reliance of that medical kit. So we still need socialised healthcare, but we don't need the NHS, and we are not going to have the NHS in about 5 years' time. So perhaps the solution, bearing in mind the immense strain that uncontrolled immigration has placed upon the NHS, plus the fact that our politicians have been fraudulently conning the taxpayer out of the money it puts in, and contractors have smelt blood in the water and raised their costs so that the NHS pays more for all the things that it buys. With all that in mind, the obvious solution then is to go for private healthcare and have the government issue credits so that they can pay towards, or sometimes in full, your medical costs to go private. Now, in order for that to happen, the cost of that private healthcare is going to have to come down dramatically, but I don't think they'll mind too much when they recognise how many more patients that's going to bring them, and if there is investment so that they can build bigger hospitals, these private healthcare companies, then everyone's going to be a winner. They get to build more hospitals and enlarge their corporate structure, pay their doctors more and employ more people, and in return they get more patients off the NHS, and we get our credit system so that we can become those patients. Therefore we have the best of both worlds. They're not going to be paying extra because they have their corporate structure. They're going to be getting discounts, especially with a huge influx of new patients, and we don't have to foot 100% of the bill of an ailing, failing medical system which has failed to serve our interests for a long time now. Plus, Starmer won't be able to sell it off, neither will his successors. So it's something to think about. The NHS has served its purpose. It did well for so many years, but it has unfortunately reached the end of its useful life. It is on life support right now, and Starmer has pulled the plug out the wall. So we have maybe a year or two at most, unless big changes are made, and I just can't see that happening. So, with regard to the credits that the government will have to issue if we were to use a pseudo-private system like I just described, in order to qualify for those credits so that you can have the money from the government to go private, I think what we need to do is make sure the right people qualify first, and then when that fund runs out of money, nobody else is going to qualify after that. For instance, Welsh, Irish, English and Scottish people who were born here and have always lived here, taxpayers who have contributed, need to be at the front of that queue, without a shadow of a doubt. If after all of those people have been 100% served and satisfied and their health is dealt with in a meaningful way, perhaps then we can think about giving it to immigrants, Gazans or jihadis or whoever the heck else is lying around who has open arms and wants free medical care. And also, people who harm themselves, who came into a violent lifestyle and were injured in that way, those people should be paying 100% of their own medical care, because if we allow people to go out and cause violence and in the process get injured, and then we pay for their medical treatment, where is the motivation for them to ever be peaceful? It disappears. And I think this is a good core value for Britain in general. If people can't behave themselves and be peaceful and honour the democratic value and the peaceful traditions of Britain, then why are we giving them free healthcare, free housecare, free education, free everything really? Freedom. Why are we giving these people freedom when they constantly flaunt that freedom in order that they can stick to the cultures they left behind from their war-torn third world, which they ran away from? Especially when it's these jihadis who say, I want to die in the service of Allah, but also say I had to leave Palestine because everyone there's getting murdered by Jews. It just doesn't make sense. So dishonest people, violent people, people with corrupt religious traditions that are nothing to do with this country, who mean us harm, these people should get nothing. No healthcare, no housing, no education, no passports. And then once we get that under control, the private healthcare pseudo-payment system that I described won't be so expensive and will be realistic. And then we are all a winner, apart from the jihadis who we want to kick out anyway. You know, Donald Trump has been very successfully doing that. Now, a lot of people make a lot of complaints about Donald Trump and his time as a president, but I don't hear many complaints coming out of Americans at him closing the borders and deporting millions of illegal immigrants who are there to cause crime, to drain the country's resources and send it back to their own home. There are no complaints. Everyone is happy with that. So it's something we should definitely consider here. And we know Labour aren't going to do this unless we put extreme pressure on them. Reform are unable to organise themselves in any meaningful way. They're not going to be the answer, and neither are the Tory party. Once again, I will say, this needs to be something we engineer as the good, moral, normal British citizens of this country. We need to pressure these things onto the government and make it something that they are forced into by making noise on social media, making as many videos and posts as we can, and promoting and supporting the people who do this already. People who have the balls to speak up and say the quiet part out loud, who are there standing up to be counted for British values. We need to support these people, and if we do that, we can slowly turn the ship around and have it sailing back towards our interests and away from supporting the violent, corrupt cultures of the jihadis, the communists, and anyone else who wants to come here and try to steal from us and guilt trip us and silence us into the bargain. So that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed that and you learned something. God bless you all. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you, beautiful people, in the next one. Bye now. Common sense politics. Who can honestly say they don't like the idea of getting quicker, better healthcare and having it paid for by removing the leeches and the feeders, the jihadis and the communists that oppose British values anyway? So let's hope for that. God bless you all, and I'll see you in the next one.